Okay, good. Hello. I like that my headshot is from 10 years ago, me as a child. But I'm so happy to have Gary here today. And we are the people that are keeping you from happy hour, so we are going to make this entertaining, to say the least, right?
Graveyard shift.
Yeah,
Sounds
exactly.
good.
Exactly. So a little bit about Gary. You know, I got this a nice bio from his parents bragging about him. No, just kidding. He has had an exceptional career as a CFO and COO that includes 3 successful PE exits and experience across blue chip multinational and smaller entrepreneurial environments with a focus on both hands-on work and motivational leadership. So thank you for joining me today. And we saw you up on stage last year, but for anyone who wasn't here, can you set a little bit of context about what is Freepik?
Yeah, thanks, Alexandra. And thank you to Chargebee for inviting me, and some of my colleagues are in the audience here today, and also for being wonderful partners. We've been a customer of Chargebee since 2021, and given what we've been through in the last year, that relationship's been really important to us because we've just had a robust billing system that we didn't have to worry about while we were trying to worry about everything else. Freepik, if we talked sort of 12, 18 months ago, I would have said we were very much a stock content business, and people might know companies like Shutterstock and Getty and Adobe. And we were, on stage last year, I described AI as an existential threat to our future. There was no doubt at that point, if we didn't change the company, we wouldn't exist for very many more years. And what I couldn't say at the time was we'd been trying to sell the business that year, and we failed. And for me as a CFO, it was unusual because it was probably the most profitable, with the most margins, with the best growth of any company I'd ever been involved in my career, and it was the one I failed to sell together with our management team and investors. So, you know, since then we've doubled down really on transforming the business and making it generative AI. And if you go to Freepik today, you'll be given a choice when you enter the website, and it'll be, what do you want to do today? Do you want to create something with generative AI? Or do you want to download a stock content image? And if you want to, you can then modify that image using Gen AI. And I'm pleased to say that now 50% of our new customers only come to use the generative AI tools. And we've still managed to keep the old customer base at the same time. But I'm not at all complacent. Our competitors today are not the competitors we had a year ago. So we no longer talk about Shutterstock and Getty and Adobe. We now talk about 2 companies called Krea and Leonardo, for anyone who's heard of them. They're lovely companies.
Don't look them up. Use Freepik, obviously.
They are 10 people in each company, and they've existed for a couple of years. And that really, I hope, just gives you a sense of how much AI has disrupted our industry. It's also created wonderful opportunities for us. But it's still incredibly fast moving, the market that we're in. So not complacent at all.
So you guys had to be really brave then. You were facing this huge threat. Like,
Yeah.
Will we exist? Will we not exist?
Yeah.
What steps did you have to take in the last year where you had to say, okay, we're making this big move?
Well, so many, but I'll try and pick up on a couple of key threads. The first one is we're a business that's already been in existence for 11 years at that point. We'd already accumulated 65 million monthly active users. We have a free model, and we'd accumulated about 700,000 subscribers. So the first big question we had was, are we going to have 2 different products, and are we going to try and upsell the AI product to the existing customers? Or are we going to bite the bullet and give them, the existing customers, AI, knowing that these are designers and marketeers who ultimately also need to go on this journey? So that was the first big decision that we made about 12 months ago, was to swallow the cost. So effectively, the way I think about it is we're giving them 2 products for the price of 1, because we didn't change the price at all. And we're private equity backed. So that wasn't an easy discussion to have with our investors, because we're basically saying we want to prioritize growth and revenue over profitability. And just to give you a sense of how that's played out over the last 12 months, we now have a line item in the P&L. We're about 100 million turnover, and 25 million of our costs are now Gen AI. And about half of that cost, about 12 or 13 million, is just giving this extra product and extra service to these historical customers for no extra revenue. So that just gives you hopefully a sense of one of the big decisions we had to make.
Yeah, that brings up two questions for me. One, I'll start with the pricing question, and then we'll go to the cost question because pricing is more fun. But we heard Adam from Condé Nast talk about continuous testing, like always testing the pricing. What kind of tests have you guys run? What worked and what didn't?
Yep.
Anything that surprised you?
So that's an interesting question. Freepik historically, because we have 65 million monthly active users and we tend to convert about 60 or 70,000 of those into subscribers each month, we've always had this wonderful customer base to run tests and get data at high volume quickly. And Freepik historically never changed anything in its price plans without running extensive tests by different markets. This time around, it was last July, and Nacho's in the audience. He did a lot of the work. He's the head of user monetization in the product team. When we launched our new usage-based price plans, we did no testing. And that was another conscious decision. We prioritized launching the product over delaying the launch of the product while we tested different price points. I think that sounds a little bit crazy and a little bit opposite to, I think, some of the data we heard from the Pavilion CEO earlier about 83% of customers doing price tests, and the ones who were most successful were iterating those price tests. We had done so many price tests over the years, and we also had really good competitive benchmarks from these new emerging competitors, that we had a really strong intuition about what would work in the market. And we kind of also knew that we could iterate from there. So we launched 3 new price plans with usage-based pricing in the summer of last year, having previously only had 1 price plan with an unlimited usage, and we did it with no testing.
Yeah, that does sound different than
Yeah.
a lot of what we're
And I still don't know whether we got it right. I mean, maybe we're getting into a little bit too much detail, but one of the new price plans was at half the price of the previous plans. We knew that we had there was a barrier to adoption of our product at the previous price point, which was about 120 euros a year. We wanted a price point around half that to allow people to experiment more. It's bringing in a lot of new customers. So today we're getting about 60 to 70% more new customers than we did a year ago. But a certain group of those customers, especially on this low price plan, they churn at a much higher rate. And I'm not sure whether that churn is because we've been successful in attracting people to try the product, or whether we're just not offering as good an experience to customers on that price plan because there's certain AI tools that they can't access. So I think people talked about it earlier. We're not just launching a product and a price and then waiting for a year or two. We're constantly thinking and iterating, are the decisions we made good decisions or not?
Yeah. And we will get to cost, but I thought of another question. So you talk about AI being included in the plan. So I was fortunate enough to talk to 5 kind of product people, investors in San Francisco in a similar panel. I mean, we're obviously doing the fireside chat. And they were talking about, I think all of us get really excited about AI. And we're thinking, wow, this is hard work. This brings a lot of value. I want to charge for that. But maybe that's not the right move, because maybe it's table stakes almost already. Like there are certain things that should just be part of your product rather than something that is an add-on for power users. So yeah. Did you guys go through that thought process? Because it's interesting that you included it right away, even though it might have been tempting.
Yeah, I definitely think it's table stakes in our industry. I think anyone not adopting AI in the design and marketing industry is going to have to find a niche in which they can differentiate themselves in a different way, because not only does it bring huge efficiencies to the process of creating, but it also brings new possibilities to differentiate your designs, to create otherworldly images and videos that maybe was only accessible to Hollywood and Bollywood prior to the AI of today. So it's definitely table stakes for us. And the key for us was trying to survive and stay relevant to our customer base. We did a survey a year ago, and I think this was an important milestone for us. We asked our customers and our users, how many of them were using AI, and just over a year ago, 20% of them said they were using it routinely in their work, 40% of them said they were experimenting, and 40% said they weren't adopting it at all. And we reran that survey about 2 months ago, and it was 50% using it routinely in their work, 30% experimenting with it, and 20% not adopting it at all. And so I think time has proven that's the right decision. It's table stakes. Our existing customers as well as new customers expect it to be there.
Right.
But the other key thing about AI, it's not easy to get value from it. It's not the case, I think you probably all have this experience, it's not the case that you can just type anything you want to in ChatGPT, or if any of you use Midjourney or Runway or Freepik, I hope, it's not the case that you can just go to that box, type something in, and get something amazing out. It's actually, there is a professional process as to how you get quality output. So at the moment, it's not clear that just by offering AI, you're necessarily offering your customers a lot of value. And we are still working hard at moving it beyond a fun thing to making it a part of the professional workflow and something that genuinely does unlock that value for users.
So especially in the business, the type of business that you're in, you incur a lot of cost with AI creation. Maybe costs are going down in other businesses where they're using AI, but you guys are not seeing that. So you just talked about the value creation, and sometimes the creative process might take a lot of iterations, and a designer might need to tweak a lot of things, but that is racking up your bill.
Yeah.
On the other side, how do you? Sorry to put you on the spot, but
no,
how do you manage this?
But that's a fantastic question, Alexandra. We heard some really interesting insights from the Pavilion CEO earlier about understanding your unit economics. Freepik always had really strong margins and really good unit economics, certainly north of 5. So we kind of knew we had quite a lot of flexibility within our P&L to experiment and stay cash flow positive. And we've certainly used that. Our margins have dropped. We've kind of our gross margins have gone down from near 70% to somewhere sub 50%. But I think you also heard from the Pavilion CEO, and I've had that backed up from other sources. 1% of revenue is kind of worth 3 percentage points of profit when it comes to business valuation. And look, I'm a CFO of a private equity-backed business, so no surprises. Enterprise value is top of my agenda in some ways. So I think understanding your unit economics, understanding your P&L, because AI right now is a significant cost. I said from 0 to 25 million, in our P&L in terms of Gen AI model and GPU spend in the course of 12 months, and that continues to grow quite significantly. Image generation, perversely, the costs of generating an image have probably dropped by almost an order of magnitude over the last 12 months, just the way the models have evolved. But now we offer video generation, and video generation is probably 80% of that 25 million. So as soon as one element of AI becomes more cost effective, somebody develops a new facet of AI that almost becomes resource hungry and exploits the potential of the new wave of the technology. So that dynamic's probably going to continue for the foreseeable future of managing margins and trying to focus on relevance and customer acquisition and value.
Yeah, it's interesting as a consumer of AI, so not even talking about us as a business using AI, but it feels so easy that it almost feels like it should be free. Like, oh, there's nothing that really goes on, and that's running through, your individuals' heads. So do you guys run into problems of going up plans? People don't want to go up plans because they think, oh, I don't really know if I want to pay for that. Like, shouldn't this just be something that I get included? Or are people seeing the value of, those gateways and thresholds? So
I mentioned last summer we launched 3 price plans, one at the same price point, one at a lower, and one at a higher price point. One thing that surprised us is just how much our power users are adopting AI. So the rate of migration from a mid-tier price point to a higher tier price point has taken us by a huge surprise. And we also launched an add-on product. So if you run out of credits. You can buy add-ons, and we've got a group of users who are now consuming 3 times the number of credits that our highest tier price plan provides. So actually, we don't like that because that's friction. That means people are having to come back and do more purchases. People do not like the auto top-up feature that because it means leaving your credit card details on our website. So only about 10% of people use that. So there's a real broad spectrum of users. I think you've got your power users of AI who really understand it. They know how to prompt it. They know how to get professional results from it. And then you all the way through to the experimentation, the fun. I would apply that to what I call the e-commerce side of our business. I call it B2C, but it's really their professional consumers. So they're freelancers, marketeers, individuals working in a large corporate with a credit card and a bit of skunk works to get around their internal compliance processes. But we also launched an enterprise product last month, which Nacho and myself helped to develop. And there we are seeing enterprise customers. I think they understand the value that AI can bring, but they're very reluctant to pay for it. They don't have the budget per se, and they don't necessarily know if it's going to work for them or how it's going to work for them. So they really want to try before they buy. And that's something we had to just accept and adapt to in the last month. Originally, we tried to have this concept of a minimum commitment to avoid time wasting and to try and cover the cost of our sales process. We had to kind of throw that out the window and say, look, let's just have a 3-month trial period, pay for what you use. If you don't like it, walk away at any point. So yeah, we're seeing kind of different parts of the market at different stages in their readiness to adopt their technology.
That's interesting with the enterprise side being still wanting to be almost consumer-like, of like, oh, I just want to try it out. Yeah,
I mean, we have seen a shift. So pre-Christmas, everyone was interested in AI, but they kind of, I guess they didn't have the mandate internally. Maybe they had bottlenecks with procurement or legal. Certainly since Christmas, we've had some clients come to us and say, we've been mandated now that we have to adopt AI, but it still doesn't take away their internal processes that they have to go to with procurement and legal, and the fact that they didn't put it in their budgets because this new mandate only came down a month or 2 ago, and they set their budgets 4 or 5 months ago. So it's all in the balance at the moment, but I'm very optimistic that I don't think people can sit on the sidelines with AI anymore. And I don't know if for any of you involved in marketing, you might remember the Coca-Cola AI-generated ads just before Christmas. Coca-Cola said that they used a model to do those ads called realmagic.ai. Actually, they used Kling, Luma, and Runway. And they're all models that are trained on copyrighted information. So they almost kind of broke the floodgates of saying, hey, it's okay to run a commercial ad using kind of copyrighted data, and you probably won't get sued for it. So there's been a few tipping points in the industry, I think, over the last few months that are, I think there's now FOMO. FOMO's starting to kick in with AI, and it's like, if I don't adopt it, I'll either have these huge inefficiencies or I'll miss this opportunity to differentiate my product. So, and I only see those trends accelerating as we go through 2025.
You talked about the internal part, so kind of transitioning to that with Freepik. What are you guys using internally? Are you testing out some things on your finance team with AI?
So, lovely question, Alexandra. I talked earlier about this. In the finance team, we experimented with AI, but we had mixed results. But I really think that was because of the structure, the quality and structure of our data. I don't think AI is the issue. I think it's what you put into AI. But in terms of usage across the business, aside from completely changing our product offering, we use it in our search function. We use it because we still ingest stock content into the business, so we use it as a classifier. We use it to qualify the quality of the artwork that's coming in. Our data team are having a bit more success in using it for queries. I used it in the legal team on a recent engagement. The company and our CEO has pretty much given everyone a license to do anything they want to with AI, and I think that's the right approach. As long as we operate at a minimum security level, pretty much anyone can do what they want. So there'll be a lot more AI use than I know about, but I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. in looking out at the market, so beyond Freepik, kind of what you're seeing with your peers, what you're seeing in other companies, whether it's competitors or anyone else, like what are you seeing that's interesting to you from a pricing model perspective? Mostly around the AI piece, but it could be usage. It just doesn't seem like there are plans where it's like 19, 29, 39 as much anymore. Like there might be other add-ons and yeah.
So pretty much everyone went down a usage-based pricing model, but not like every time you click a button, you're going to get a charge, sort of tiered. Up to this level, you get this many credits. If you buy the next tier up, you maybe get extra credits and maybe you get a slightly more powerful generative AI tool. That's pretty much the direction that the industry went in over the last 12 to 18 months. I'm not sure any of us like it. And the reason for that is we're all working with creatives. And I think the worst thing you can do in a creative process is say, if you click this button, it's going to cost you money. Because that's not how the creative industry works. It wants to create with unbridled kind of potential. It wants to experiment, it wants to learn. And here we are with a usage-based model that it causes friction. I think there's acceptance that AI comes at a cost by all the industry, including the users. So I think it's tolerated. But we are starting to see people experiment with what they call unlimited models. And we do think that's the future. We do think AI will become like electricity. And it is in parts becoming like the cost of electricity, but there's other parts like video generation where it's far from that. When people say they're offering unlimited, what they're actually doing is usually either offering access to a lower quality model or they're providing generations not in real time, but in what they call slow time when GPU capacity becomes available. But I think there's a clear direction of travel, which is maybe against what some people in the audience might think. I think we're going to go through a phase of usage-based billing and come out the other side. And I'm not entirely sure what the other side looks like. Again, historically we operated on either a seat-based or a time-based model, however you think about that. But when we're selling to enterprises, the people within large corporates, there's such a range of profiles. This idea that you're going to sell a seat at the same price to somebody maybe in design and marketing as you are, maybe in finance because they're going to do the odd presentation using AI, I don't think that's going to wash. So corporates want unlimited access without credits, without a usage-based system. They want certainty. I think will end up with some kind of fixed fee based on value when things settle down, but that I don't know when that's coming.
Will AI decide what value we've gotten? Like we're getting really meta.
I mean, one thing I haven't talked about, but we talked about in our breakout session earlier, is we've introduced the professional services function. We're a software business, but if you really want to get value from AI, you need training and you need help. And we come from a background of having 150 art directors and creative designers within the company. And historically, they would manage the portfolio of stock content and curate a library. But they're at their heart, they studied the creative arts at university. And in a way, we were underutilizing their talent. And then AI came along and we said, well, look, we don't want to fire you. Why don't you start playing with AI? A lot of our staff have been doing that for 2 years. 2 years is a long time in this industry. 2 years is enough time to become the expert. So we've got a huge bench of really creative staff. And now we're putting them in front of customers to say, look, can you help these customers? Because ultimately, we don't want to sell customers a usage-based model and they're spending loads of credits getting really terrible outcomes. That's not going to work for them and it doesn't work for us. So we built a professional services team and we actually engage them in pre-sales phase to try and help clients understand how you can get professional results with AI. And that, I think, is going to be the key to creating value. And I also talked earlier about, I think that's going to create a lot of value. I mentioned one client we're working with at the moment. They used to ship their car on a plane to Iceland to do a photo shoot and then ship it back to the US. Wow. And we worked with them over the last couple of months with our professional services team. And we kind of took their car anywhere in the world they wanted it for less than $1,000. So in terms of value creation, that photo shoot in Iceland would have cost them several $100,000. We showed them that you could do the same with AI to the same exacting standards, because these clients have extremely high standards when it comes to how their product is replicated. Mm-hmm. We showed them that you could do that with $1,000 or $2,000. So in a normal equation as a CFO, I'd say, great, I've just saved you a couple $100,000. Tell you what, you give me kind of 30% of that. So my fee might be 60 grand, but I don't think it works like that. I think that client will pay us $1,000 or $2,000.
Right.
But I'm not worried about that, because I think the market is about to explode. There's so much value creation. And I think the market would compete away those profits anyway. And then clients would be a bit resentful if I sort of signed them up to a deal for 60 grand and 6 months later somebody offered it for $1,000. So yep. Everything's up for grabs at the moment. A lot of value is going to be created. Who takes it? I don't quite know yet. And how it gets shared out, what the pricing models of the future are. I think the most important thing is just be open and be flexible to change. And change is happening every month now. I mean, we're constantly tweaking. And again, thanks to having a partner like Chargebee, there are some things that just take care of themselves.
And that is nice. Yeah. Anyone who's out in the audience that might be thinking about launching an AI feature or an AI standalone product, what would you recommend to them when you're thinking about monetization? Like anything that when you put everything together that you've learned, you would say, here's my nugget of wisdom.
I think the thing we have learned over the last 12 months is how important it is to listen to the clients. So I'd go back, we just worked together to launch the enterprise product, and I mentioned that we went into that with this concept that we needed to recover our costs of sale and delivering the service, and we got this kind of pushback saying we're not ready to commit even £50,000. These are for organizations with hundreds of millions of marketing budget. And we said, look, we just have to believe in the value that we're creating. We're going to have to soak this risk up.
Believe.
So, yeah, believe. I think just some of the historical rules that you could live by in business, they're out the window now. And I think an appetite for risk, and one of my jobs is to make sure I can take the investors with the company in taking those risks, and removing barriers for customers to try it and helping them to get value. Like I said, we created a professional services team. You talk to any private equity investor and they say, oh, I don't like services. It's poor margin, it's people, they're complicated. You just throw out all the rules and just do what works. And don't be afraid to do different things. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gary.